Okay, now we will begin the seminar. Thank you all for joining us today. Hello, everyone. My name is Eunmi Choi, and I will be serving as both the moderator and chair for today's seminar. I'm a senior researcher at the Center for Gender Innovation for Science Technology Research. It's a pleasure to be here today to guide this important discussion. So before we begin with the presentation, I'd like to introduce our distinguished speakers who will deliver the opening ceremony remark. First, I'm honored to introduce Dr. Hyunsoon Lee, President of the Center for Gender Innovation for Science Technology Research. She will be delivering the opening remark for today's seminar. So please.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, esteemed researchers, and dedicated advocates from both Korea and Vietnam. I'm Heisook Lee, the President of GISTAR, Korea Center for Gender Innovations for Science and Technology Research. I would like to extend the warmest welcome to all of you to our pivotal seminar on health equity through gender innovations in science and technology. I'm honored to announce that this seminar is co-hosted by the Research Center for Sex and Gender-Specific Medicine at Seoul National University in Korea and the Institute for Community Health Research in Vietnam. Today, we embark on a crucial journey to explore the intersection of gender, science, and health equity. By fostering collaboration between researchers, policymakers, and stakeholders from Korea and Vietnam, we aim to address the pervasive gender bias in healthcare and promote equitable health outcomes for all. Let me highlight some key areas where gender bias significantly impacts healthcare. First, diagnostic disparities. Women often face longer wait times for diagnosis and are less likely to have their pain taken seriously, even for the same conditions as men. And secondly, treatment inequalities. Women may receive different or inadequate treatment for certain diseases compared to men, leading to poorer health outcomes. The main causes of the gender health gap can be summarized as follows. The first is science research gap. Historically, medical research has predominantly focused on male subjects, limiting our understanding of how diseases and treatment affects women differently. Secondly is a data bias. Health burdens for women are frequently underestimated, and important conditions are undervalued or excluded due to the accumulated scientific health data being biased without integrating sex and gender analysis. Third is care delivery barriers. Women face more barriers to care and experience suboptimal treatment and diagnostic delays. Fourth is investment disparity. There has been less investment in women's health conditions relative to their prevalences. To address these challenges, we must promote inclusive research that considers sex and gender differences. We must implement comprehensive bias training for healthcare professionals. We must develop policies that explicitly address the gender equity in healthcare access and delivery. We must foster cross-cultural collaboration to share best practices and innovative solutions. Health equity is both an inclusive and economic issue. According to the report, Closing the Women's Health Gap, released by McKinsey Health Institute and the World Economic Forum in January 2024. Investing in women's health has significant economic potential. The report estimates that closing the gender health gap could add up to $1 trillion to global economy annually by 2040. This economic boost would come from reduced time women spend in poor health, increased workforce participation, and higher productivity. According to the report, For every $1 invested in women's health, approximately $3 is projected in economic growth. By working together, we can create a more equitable and inclusive healthcare system that benefits everyone. I expect all of us to participate actively in today's discussions and share insights. Together, we can build a foundation for lasting collaboration that transcends borders and advances the health equity for all. Thank you for your dedication to this vital cause. Let us begin this inspiring journey of discovery, innovation, and positive change together. Finally, but not least, I'd like to thank our distinguished speakers and panelists and those who made this seminar possible. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you, President Lee. Right, next we have Ms. Jeong Lee, Director of UN Women Center of Excellence for Gender Equality in Seoul. With over 3 decades of experience, she has been at the forefront of developing innovative gender equality policy that empower women and girls. So please, Director Lee.
Thank you, Eunmi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Dr. Heisook Lee, President of GISTER, and Dr. Hyung Tu, Dean of Faculty and Director at Paik University of Medicine and Pharmacy. Dr. Hee-young, former Minister of Gender Equality and Family. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to join you today at this important seminar on advancing health equity and gender equality in science and technology. I would like to share some thoughts on the critical link between gender and health equity. Integrating gender perspectives into research and development is essential for creating breakthroughs that benefit not only women but also entire communities. Addressing gender-specific needs in medical research and health technology can significantly improve the effectiveness of the solutions we create. However, increasing diversity in research teams alone is not sufficient. We need to address structural barriers within institutions and improve the knowledge production process to ensure meaningful progress. Scientists must be equipped to analyze sex, gender, and other intersecting factors for research to be truly inclusive and innovative. The Republic of Korea and Vietnam have worked closely to promote gender equality through ODA projects, including initiatives to combat violence against women and establishing the Sunflower Center in Vietnam. In science and technology, two countries have collaborated to establish institutions such as the Vietnam-Korea Institute of Science and Technology, which we hope will strengthen gender-responsive efforts in this field. As we approach the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Platform for Action, we must acknowledge that violence against women remains a significant health issue rooted in broader social inequalities. Although women make up 70% of the health workforce, they are still underrepresented in leadership roles, which impacts the development of inclusive health policies. Ensuring equal leadership opportunities is vital for advancing health equity for all. UN Women has also been active in Vietnam, partnering with the Hue Women's Union to enhance women's leadership in disaster management and climate adaptation. Our center is also working to make women and girls more visible through data in this field. We are collaborating with the UNODC, UNFPA, and other partners to implement global frameworks for measuring gender-related killings, that is femicide, and technology-facilitated violence against women. We hope to collaborate with Korea, Vietnam institutions and Eunmi in Vietnam to advance gender-responsive approaches in technology and climate action. In Korea, DigitalHealth has been a leader in advancing gendered innovations. I'm thankful to Dr. Heisook Lee and Dr. Hee-young for inviting me here today, and I'm confident that this seminar will lead to valuable exchanges between Korean and Vietnamese researchers, advancing health equity through science and technology. I hope that many more successful outcomes will continue to follow. Thank you very much.
Right, I'm pleased to have you here today. Thank you, Director Lee. Right. Finally, I'd like to welcome Dr. Dang Tian Tu, Director of the Institute for Community Health Research at Hue University of Medicine and Pharmacy in Vietnam. Her research focuses on environmental and occupational health, disaster medicine, and risk assessments, addressing key community health issues across all age groups. So please, Dr. Tu.
So can you hear me clearly? Yeah, good. Dear Professor Heisook Lee, President of GISTA, dear Professor Jeong Lee, Director, UN Women's Center of Excellence for Gender Equity, dear distinguished guests, colleagues, students, and friends. It's my honor today to participate in this pivotal seminar, which addresses a vital and timely issue, health equity through gender innovation in science and technology. As the work advances in scientific discovery and healthcare, it's crucial that we approach the progress with a comprehensive understanding of how sex and gender differences impact health outcomes. I'm so proud to present public health faculty and the Institute for Community Health Research of Hue University of Medicine and Pharmacy, among the leading medical universities in Vietnam, with a strong commitment to advancing healthcare through research and innovation. Our university leadership and staff have demonstrated an open mind and progressive approach, welcoming opportunities for collaboration and action in the realm of gender innovation. Together, we strive to build a more inclusive and equitable healthcare system that addresses the unique needs of all individuals, regardless of gender and sexes. For example, recently we conducted a cohort study on the impact of maternal and healthcare due to the domestic violence. Or recently, we just completed a pilot research on the accessibility and utilization of healthcare services by the LGBT community in Thừa Thiên Huế province, Vietnam. So today's seminar brings together experts from both Vietnam and Korean who share a deep commitment to advancing sexes or gender equity in science. I believe that this collaboration is crucial, not only for two countries, but for the global health community. These insights and innovation shared today will help shape more inclusive research and policy, ensuring that the differences between sexes are recognized and addressed in healthcare. I would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation to our colleagues from Korea, particularly to the Korea Gender Innovation Center for Science and Technology Research and the Research Center for Sex and Gender Specific Medicine at Seoul National University. Your dedication to advancing health equity through gender innovations has made this collaboration possible, and I'm confident it will lead to meaningful progress. I'm excited about the potential this seminar holds for generating new ideas, fostering stronger partnerships, and creating innovative solutions that advance health equity. We are shaping a future where healthcare is more personalized, effective, and inclusive, meeting the needs of all individuals regardless of gender, sex. Thank you once again for the opportunity to be part of this important event. We look forward to the fruitful discussion ahead and continue collaboration between Vietnam and Korean. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you to all of our speakers for opening remarks. So now we will move on to the main presentation of today's seminar. Let me introduce a little bit about the presentation format. Each presenter will have 15 minutes for their presentation, followed by a 5-minute Q&A session. Okay, let me introduce our first speaker. Everybody okay? Okay, our first presenter is Dr. Hee-young Paik, emeritus professor at Seoul National University and former Minister of Gender Equality and Family in South Korea. She will be presenting on the topic of gendered innovation for biomedical research. It's my pleasure to invite our speaker to the stage to begin the presentation.
Thank you very much for introduction. And I'm very happy that today's event is occurring between Vietnam and Korea to discuss about sex and gender issues in biomedical area and then health equity. I want to celebrate you all three organizations for the successful putting together this kind of seminar is a very time-consuming and takes a lot of effort, but I'm sure it will worthwhile for the development in the area of both countries. Since the time is very limited, I'll just go ahead and start my presentation. The topic for today's presentation is gendered innovations for biomedical research. In March this year, President Biden and then the White House made an announcement that the president signed the administrative order of a White House initiative on women's health research. And previously in October of last year or November of last year, they announced that the policy will be developed. But in March this year, they actually made an official announcement and then sign of this administrative order, so that in the efforts of the government will be geared to integrate women's health across the. Just a minute, I want to. Okay, across the federal research portfolio, and then you prioritize the investment in women's health research. And also the government will galvanize new research on women's midlife health, because previously women's health was primarily focused on maternal and child health, which is just young women. But now people realize that in the midlife and the later life, many women suffer from many diseases. And also they have to assess the unmet needs to support women's health research. And then the president called on Congress for $12 billion for the 11 federal government partners, including NIH and Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Defense, and many organizations, many government agencies, so that they will begin all these important activities. Why is it so important to do the women's research at this time? Because people realize that women live longer than men, but they spend 25 more years with the disabilities. So this is the world data about health longevity. So this is women minus men. So on the average, women live about 6 years more than men. But they live with disabilities, they live with the sickness, and especially the neurological disorders and mental health is very serious problem in women. So now we know that in Alzheimer's disease, 2.2 times more women than men are suffering from the Alzheimer's disease and then dementia. So why are this? We have so many women in the sickness, but we don't know very much about it. And this is the one website that introduces the famous researchers of our human history. And you can see they are all men except one woman, Dr. Marie Curie. So 96% of all these important researchers in the history are men. So most of the research were done by men, and their colleagues are also men, and they use the male subjects. So in animal studies, most researches are done in male animals. And also the standards, body figure, and also body organization, it's all men's standard are used in education and development. So now we are seeing the serious side effects from this biased research. So January 2013, US Food and Drug Administration recommended the drug manufacturers that they should decrease the dose of zolpidem, the famous, most widely used the sleep inducer. So for women, they should recommend just half of the regular dose than what has been used. So the regular dose has been 10 milligrams. And in clinical studies, they found after 8 hours, 5 times more women than men are still cannot function properly. So they fall into sleep during driving, during the work, and they go too late for the interviews and exams. So it seriously affected the women's achievements in the society. So they realized that if you cut by half the women's recovering from the sleep will be about similar than men. It's not only in the pharmacy, but today we'll just mainly discuss about biomedical area. But things like safety, car safety belt, or facial recognition by the AI, it's all very, very much towards the men. So especially when women are pregnant, the safety seatbelts are very, very, very dangerous to the fetus when there is an accident. So do you have to change the structure of the seatbelt for women and pregnant? But in the drug development phase, there is a discovery stage and there is a development stage. And then you first identify the compounds that have some pharmacological effects, and then you test their activity and test the safety, and if they establish the efficacy of the drug, of the compound, and then safety of the compound, then you go into the clinical phase. And then if you are successful in up to phase 3 of the clinical trial, then you get the approval to sell this drug, and then you do clinical trial phase 4, which is a post-marketing study. So during this preclinical phase, you mainly use cells and animals for their to test their efficacy and then safety and side effects. And it's mainly done with cells and animals. And in the clinical phase, it's human and also post-marketing human studies. So so to fix all this bias in the science and technology research, you have to first fix the numbers of men and women in research, and you also fix the institutions so that things will be equal for men and women to work and then do the research. And most importantly, you have to fix the knowledge that has been accumulated up to now with the biased subjects and biased, more of the men-focused researchers. So in the 2019 November, Nature published the 105th anniversary special issue, and there is a very good article, Sex and Gender Analysis Improves Science and Engineering. So we have to do the sex and gender analysis from now on in all areas of science and engineering so that we can achieve the equitable knowledge and equal treatment in disease and health. So gendered innovations harness or utilize the creative power of a sex analysis and gender analysis so that we can discover new knowledge or new unbiased knowledge. But for the researchers to conduct gendered innovations research, they need the tools, which are methods, and then case studies, how these methods are utilized. And also, we need a lot of activities to develop the policies and disseminate information, also integrate the knowledge into the new research. So you can get more of the topic in GISTR website or Stanford website or NIH, US NIH website, and also European Union commissions. So we have to clearly understand the sex and gender. So sex refers to biological characteristics. So in the NIH website, they have this diagram shows how we can understand the sex and gender correctly. So sex is like basic anatomy, physiology, genetics, and hormones, so that the basic mechanism of body function is mainly the biological characteristics. That's what we call sex, biological sex. So it's quite familiar for the researchers in the biomedical areas. It's just that we have not been doing correctly. We have not been including male and female animals and cells correctly in the research. So a lot of pre-existing knowledge are biased. So we have to correct this bias. Now, gender refers to social cultural characteristics. So gender means your identity, roles and norms, what you should be doing in the society, men and women should do, and the relations and power. So these are much more social cultural characteristics. So it's very hard to clearly understand what to include in the biomedical area research you are conducting. So it's more difficult for researchers to understand and actually apply to your research. But we have to understand, or we have to study more about sex and gender characteristics that are suitable for your area of research. This is the National Institute of Health, US NIH diagram that men and women have different diseases. Now, if you go into their website, you see many more examples. It's just the first few examples. And then, for example, mental health, as I mentioned, there are many more women about suffering from depression and Alzheimer's disease, many of the mental disorders. But men are more likely to commit suicide, or so there is a clearly difference. So this is Dr. Nayoung Kim and our Center for Sex Gender Specific Medicine. And gender specific medicine focuses on diseases men and women and try to find out the difference and solutions to solve these different problems. It's not just focusing on women's health. Traditionally, it has been the breast cancer, maternal mortality, and then things like that. But women also have heart disease here, osteoporosis, arthritis, mental health, so many other diseases. We have both men and women, but there is just a different mechanisms of different causes. So we have to have the different solutions. This is the website of GISTR, And then we have cell DB, where we have the information of the sex information of the cells, and then a lot of new information of their activities. So we first started from the 2016, and now we have Dr. Lee, who is leading the center from 2021. So if you want to know more about our activities, I encourage you to go into our website and see the current activities. So going back to this biochemical, biomedical area research, how you apply sex and gender analysis in this research phase. So in the preclinical phase, when you use cells and animals, you mainly focus on sex analysis. So you have to know the sex of the cells and animals used in the experiment, and you have to balance male and females. So far we have been using a lot of experiments were done just by the male animals, and that causes a lot of bias in knowledge. So we have to either balance, or if we have some pre-existing knowledge that we need more male or more female and so on, you have to balance your male and female according to the to your problem. And you have to analyze by sex, and then very important that you have to report. So in many papers, they say we have 5 male animals, 5 female animals, and because there was no significant difference, we'll just present the total summary. And that's not correct, because you have to have the report by sex, and then maybe you can aggregate later, after you analyze by sex, and then you can, if they are all the same, you can do. But in the next time, maybe you will see some problems that are related to male and female, and this analyze and report by sex will give the next later the researchers will be able to distinguish the knowledge and how to conduct experiment. So sex analysis also applies to humans when you are studying basic mechanisms and basic function of the body. But when you do the research for the whole person, you have to have the gender analysis. So when human being as the whole are subject of your research in clinical phase, when you apply the new drugs, new new treatment methods, and so on, and also the post-marketing research, you are doing only in humans, the whole person. So then you need gender analysis. So for doing the gender analysis, you need to develop some methods how you can identify the gender factor that are suitable for your research, and it's called the gender variable. How you can use gender as a variables you can quantify and apply in your research. So I'll introduce you a couple of methods that has been used for the gender characteristics in health research. And the first one is the gender score. It was first reported by Pelletier et al. In Canada from 2015. So in their research, they developed a score from 0 to 100, and higher score means you are more feminine. It's more like a woman. And 0 means totally masculine. And how they developed the score is from doing many questionnaires. So this is a cohort study of men and women, the survivors of early premature acute coronary syndrome. So they had the coronary syndrome, but they overcame, and then they collected these people and conducted the research as a cohort. So they had many questionnaires regarding gender that are given to these participants. So they answered all these questionnaires, and they did factor analysis, statistical analysis, and then 7 variables were identified as important gender factor in this population. So they then developed a regression equation to get the score ranging from 0 to 100. Okay. So so each participant in this study have their biological sex and also the score developed by this equation about their gender characteristics. And then these are distribution of the of gender score by women and men. So you can see the men are very highly concentrated in the lower score, which means it's more masculine. I told you that higher score means they are more feminine, more women's gender characteristics. Okay, so so the men have very low distribution in this medium to higher score range. But for women, there are some women who have very high, very masculine characteristics. And then there are more women towards higher points. So women have a more broader distribution of the gender score. Okay. So you can see that there are differences between men and women regarding the gender score. And then they did the logistic analysis to find the relationship between each of the health problem and also their behavior, some behaviors. And when you use only gender score, you see there are many problems related to the gender score. And you do the univariate analysis with female sex, so biological sex. You also see some problems are significantly related to their biological sex. But when you do the multivariate analysis, so you use both gender score and sex in okay, yeah. Then all the importance was placed on the gender score. Biological sex was not important. So this was very interesting for researchers because biological sex is very important, we have considered, but gender score is more important than biological sex regarding these health problems. So this was a very interesting study. Now the second method was the gender characteristics as gender variable. This paper was published by Nielsen in 2021. So the previous study with gender score, each person has only one gender characteristics. Okay. So, but as you saw in the NIH diagram, gender can be many different things, right? So they said wanted to have several measures to measure characteristics of gender. So they developed the first draft from the literature. There are many papers published in the literature about gender and their characteristics and how to measure their gender characteristics. So they went over all these papers, and I identified some variables, and the first draft actually includes 11 variables, and they conducted a survey. And from the survey and by factor analysis of the statistical methods, they identified the 7 variables and then 25 questions that are related to 7 variables. So they, for each variables, they calculated a score and then compared by gender group and their relation to health status. So these are 7 variables: caregiver strain, work strain, independence, risk-taking, emotional intelligence, social support, and discrimination. So these are men, green, and then women, and in orange. So except 2 or 3 gender variables, The others are very similar between men and women. And then non-binary, who said they are not men, neither men nor women, they had a very, very high score on discrimination. Okay. So it's interesting that you can measure gender differently by characteristics, but does it work in other societies? Because the first one was developed in Canada, and then gender variable is developed in US. So this is all North America. So we try to see how that compares in Korea. So we took the gender variable questionnaires and then examined by Korean experts and how we can use these questionnaires to measure gender in Korea. Okay, so we conducted the survey of 3,000 people, half men and half female, male, female by sex group. And we asked their gender group, and most of the males said they are men, and most of the females say they are women. But there are also 316 people that they are not men, they are women, they are something else. Okay, so about 10%. And this is distribution of gender variable scores. And you can see that in many variables, women have much higher stress than women in Korea. So that was very different in shape. And also the gender variables relation to the health. In Korea and US, caregiver strain, red means they are not good for health. So caregiver strain are not good for health for both US and Korea. But work strain is a more serious problem in Korea than in US. And also social support can decrease the health problem. They are doing better. And also in the US for two problems. And discrimination is very serious problem in US, but not very much in Korea. And then biological sex seems to be more important in Korea. So we can compare the characteristics of this gender characteristics are differently affecting the US for some measures. Okay. So in summarize, women's health research is becoming more and more important because sex and gender has been neglected in biochemical research so far. So gendered innovations attempt to fix this biased knowledge. So sex refers to biological characteristics, and gender should be integrated in human research. And then I wanted to show the example that gender characteristics are more affect differently in different societies. So I hope in Korea and Vietnam, in Asia, we can also work to develop more gender characteristics in our societies. Thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your enlightening presentation, Professor Pat. Well, we are supposed to have a 5-minute for Q&A session, but even if we've run out of time right now for question at the moment, but feel free to save your question for the panel discussion later. We will have more time to address them. Okay, so one thing, to help everyone focus on the presentation, please be mindful of any background noises or sound that may be shared. Thank you for your cooperation. All right, our next presenter is Dr. Hoang Tu Anh. Rather than spending more time to introduction, I believe we'd all prefer to hear more than Dr. Tu about her presentation. So without further delay, her presentation is titled Impact of Ambient Temperature on Hospital Admission for Acute Myocardial Infarction in the Central Coast of Vietnam, with a focus on differences among genders. I invite Dr. Tu to the stage to begin her presentation.
I would like to thank again for having me present this part of my PhD study and it's 5 years ago, and I have a chance to talk about it again. In relation to, we include the sex differences for the results of what I had done in the past. So I can see that lots of information from the presentation of Professor Hee-young Paik when show us a lot of the view, and not only we focus on sexes when we did in the habit of doing research or our concern, but more than that for the gender differences, and with lots of introduce about the score and new thinking relating to analysis doing the research. So for me, when I go to this seminar, I just want to show that in the Vietnam habit research, we most focus on, the general population, and then we have the habit to add sex or gender in our, questionnaire, and thinking that we are already concerned about the difference between gender or sexes, but actually it's not enough. So we have to think about more than that to aim for the like the care of the people individually, and with very of genders. At introduce about the definition of gender and sex in the presentation of Professor Hee-young Paik, as well as some other scholars or divines. So before I come to the result, I would like to say something about the situation of climate change in Vietnam. So you all know that Vietnam is a low middle income country in Southeast Asia, and it is one of the tropical countries most vulnerable to the risk of climate change. Vietnam frequently exposed to lots of hydrometeorological hazards, and just recently we're suffering from different typhoon, very big and strong one, hit in the center and the south, the north of Vietnam. In 2018, Vietnam Ministry of Health adopted an action plan for the adaptation to climate change in health sector from 2019 to 2030 with a vision to 2015. And a recent review of the progress of the implementation of the action plan in 2022 showed that promotion scientific research on effect of climate change on health and health sector adaptive solutions should be strongly prioritized. And although the number of climate change study has significantly increased in Vietnam from, maybe 15 years ago, there is still a lack of scientific research and evidence to inform the implementation for the Ministry of Health Action Plan for adaptation of climate change in health sector. Together with the climate change, we most focus on the acute myocardial infarction, and laterly I will talk short is AMI. So acute myocardial infarction, usually known as the heart attack, is this common cardio emergency characterizing as the occlusion of a major coronary artery, which leading to a cardiovascular necrosis. And this is the serious health condition which can quickly result in death if it's not offered proper treatment. And roughly 40 to 60% of AMI death occur within the first hour after the onset. We know that the mechanism for AMI is the rupture of or erosion of a vulnerable lipid-laden atherosclerotic coronary plaque involved in several processes to form a thrombus and block the blood flow in the heart tissue. Yes. Okay. So for the burden of AMI in Vietnam, as well as the global thing, so we know that this is the common clinical manifestation of ischemic heart disease and also cardiovascular disease. And the figures show that it causes a loss burden in global as well as in Vietnam. Ischemic heart disease ranking at the first single cause of death over the world. And in Vietnam, ischemic heart disease is the second single cause of death, the third leading cause of year life loss or daily life loss in 2013. And AMI also among the fifth highest specific score of death. It's the same year. This picture show you the overloaded cardiovascular disease patient in Vietnamese hospital. And the country has experienced a significant transition of the disease pattern, in which the cardiovascular disease become a leading cause of death and disease burden. So we don't have enough bed for the patient when they get into the hospital. And it seems that sometimes 3 patients had to rest in the same bed. So for the risk factor of AMIs, it's widely known that the complex biological and environmental causes of ischemic heart disease in general, and for AMI in particular. And a number of risk factors of AMI were listed in the slide here. And for our concern, in the light of global climate change, there's an increasing interest of environment impact on mortality as well as the occurrence of AMI, such as ambient temperature and other climate factors. So our topic relating to the temperature variation impact on the onset, on the hospital admission for AMI. And there's the proof about the mechanism linking from temperature exposure to the AMI occurrence. And we come to the topic today. We search on the literature, and we also find that there are differences impact from the ambient temperature or other meteorological factor relating to the onset of the health condition. So they say that while low temperature was commonly proven to increase the risk of AMI hospital admission among females, males were at risk of AMI hospital admission due to the high temperature exposure. So that's the different finding from others study. And for some reason, they say that females are more likely to be affected by low temperature compared to males. And the reason potentially for that are the muscle mass, the organ of heat production is lower in female than male, and that female have more difficulty maintaining their body temperature due to addition distribution of blood flow to the uterus or ovaries. In addition, female has a tendency to be more light dressed, including wear skirt or compare male. That is some discussion relating to what, how is the impact of the temperature on the onset of AMI in different male and female group. But you can see that lately in the result of our study, the result is different. So we have some discuss on that. So the aim of our study at that time is focused on the fewer 3 M's. However, like I just add another part relating to, we try to see the difference between the impact on health and on male and female. Coming to this seminar today. So I can just briefly introduce about the methodology. As here you can see the conceptual framework for the study, and basically we will use the distributed nonlinear model to to do the analysis and help to systematically address nonlinear exposure response dependency as well as the delay effect of an environmental factor on AMI. And that is the setting for the study. The yellow part is where we cover the data relating to that, the red one. And we aim to have the result for the central part of Vietnam. Because before that, we find that lots of study on the south side and on the north side of Vietnam, but very rare study for the center. That's come with me, try to make the coherent story of the impact of temperature and impact on Vietnam from the south, the center, and the north. And we collected the data from Quảng Bình and Thừa Thiên Huế in the north side and in Khánh Hòa for the south side of the central coast. As well as we also obtain the data for the meteorological factor as well. This awful slide just want to show you the complicated process for the data collection compared to the other similar study using the electronic database. So back to 10 years ago, at that time, we had to go directly to the hospital, the highest level of hospital, to collect the data and define as the AMI case at that time. I have made 3 trips to Vietnam to about 12 months, worked with a number of stakeholders to collect the data from 3 highest level hospitals in 30 provinces. And we also get very complicated administrative process at that time then. So some pictures of the data process, and you see that we have to go to the storage and collect the hard copy and observe and have to make the decision again compared to the criteria to identify the case of AMI at that time. And at the end, we get the total of more than 3,000 AMI hospital admission from 2008 to 2015 for 3 highest level hospitals. And the daily meteorological data we also obtain for the same period of time. So you can see detail of the information here. So for the summarize of several important characteristics of the study population, we find that the mean of age were 70 years old, and 2/3 of the participants was male, have ST elevation, AMI, having history of cardiovascular disease, and having at least one comorbidity and treated with medication. So because we come to collect the data based on the health record, but for this time series analysis, they are very limited in the number of variables we use for our study. And this slide just shows the analytical method for different objectives. And it's the way of modeling and try to estimate the impact of different meteorological factor relating to the hospital admission for AMI. And for the last objective, we analyze using subset of the data. So we have to see this method talking about the previous presentation. Coming to the result part, we find that they are different of the seasonality on the AMI hospital admission. And we had 3 locations in the north of Central Coast, and it showed that for that 2 provinces, the impact is quite similarly. And when we, that's why we pull the data from these two provinces for the become one, and we combine the data from the North and the South Central Coast based on this finding. So using the generalized linear model show the significant result with the highest rate for AMI hospital admission in winter and lowest rates in summer along the three provinces. So again, this analysis for the third aim at that time. So the result in the North Central Coast. So you can see is in the map. And we found a significant co-effect on the increased hospital admission due to AMI. And more detail relating to what we get there. But we will not go detail on that. But you can see here is another story for the South Central Coast, where the heat actually make more impact on the population. And for the third objective, we also explore the added effect of the temperature extreme, the cold spell, and the heat wave for the AMI hospital admission. So at this time, we have to define the cold spell or heat wave for that. And you can see here, we introduce different kind of definition, but actually, the heat wave were defined using the combination of the intensity as well as the duration of the day. For example, a heat wave can be defined as the minimum of 2 consecutive days with a local mean temperature equal to or about 95 percentile of temperature. And here, you can see that the result is vary with different subgroups. And the story of the male and female is come to the slide later. So here, when we examine the effect of heat wave on the South Central Coast region, we found only one significant definition at 98 percentile of local temperature for 3 days consecutive. And it's also have the lag effect. And actually, through this, we said that the effect is kind of different with the age group or the AMI style more than the gender or the sex. So we found that the North Central Coast region, the result revealed for the winter effect in the female, and the South Central Coast region, the winter effect appear in male. So that's when we more analyze for the sex is different. And the graph show you the difference, right? Here you can see that for the cold spell added effect in the North Central Coast, it just shows that the male has significant difference with the other, while the female, they don't show any impact of the cold spell in the North Central Coast of Vietnam. Examine the heat wave added effect in the South Central Coast of Vietnam. We also find different subgroups of people suffering from the heat wave. For male, the younger age group and the stimuli group or the group without no comorbidity. So coming to the conclusion, we find that the highest rate for AMI hospital admission is in winter, and it's peak in the Jan to February, and it's had drought in the July and August. And the adverse impact of ambient temperature on AMI hospital admission, low temperature in North Central Coast and high temperature in South Central Coast. And cold spell added effect in the North Central Coast area, while the heat wave added effect in the South Central Coast area. In general, we find that the vulnerable group for cold spell are male and elderly group, while have more group for vulnerable with heat wave. But we find that the male are more vulnerable for both heat wave and cold spell. So if you remember about what we find in the literature in the slide previous, it's kind of different with the conclusion of other study. But we still find that the difference of the impact in the male or female is more relating to the culture and the behavior the people of different region or the country can be different because of the occupational or the discrimination status of each area. So we find at that time, we found that this is the multiple site study to quantify effect of ambient temperature extreme on AMI hospitalization in Vietnam. And we obtained a very careful manual process for data collection with the recheck of AMI diagnosis. And we also applied quite various analytical strategy and programs for given the result like this. And we also control for various meteorological factors as well as the fluenza at that time. But we also find that there are some limitation relating to our study. So we just standard-based data collection process. So sometimes we neglect some of the data that people not get into the hospital, as well as people hospitalized in another hospital. And at that time, because lack of the data, we cannot control for the air pollution, and at that time we're not very focused on the sex difference in the impact of ambient temperature on the hospital admission for AMI. So coming to that, we think that we will make the various recommendations for a different level of the public. We need to aim to the individual measure to avoid the disadvantageous temperature. We have education to prevent AMI occurrence with a focus on the sex difference. For the university or research institutes like us, we can implement more related research on other regions along Vietnam or conduct more research, develop guidelines and recommendations, and enhancing the documentation with a focus on sex differences. And at hospital level, we think that need to ensure the adequate staff, infrastructure, equipment, provide more training and other things to help to people to avoid, as well as the well prepared for the hospital admission for AMI during the variation of the temperature. So I come to the takeaway message with this presentation. The impacts of heat and cold on AMI hospitals separated by climate zone. We can use different kind of definition for heat wave, but we have to focus on the sex differences in the effect of temperature variation, as well as other meteorological factors on various health conditions, not only the AMI, and apply for different region, country. And it's had the urgent need for the health campaign to protect the vulnerable group against the environment structure. For example, in AMI, for ambient temperature, in the Vietnam and in the central region, we should focus on the male. Yeah. So I answer would like to thank for your listening and welcome more discussion as well as the collaboration in the future. And for those who have not had chance to visit Vietnam, we here welcome and we introduce our beautiful country with the partners. Thank you for your listening.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tu, for that excellent presentation. We truly appreciate that the insight you've shared with us today. But well, actually, we are running a bit over time right now, so you will have the opportunity to ask your question during the panel discussion later. So please check our chatting message from President Heisook Ly. So again, if you have any question, feel free to ask them. The first, our presenter, Professor Paik and Dr. To. Any question for our first two presenters, we can discuss panel discussion time. So, all right. I guess we even if out of time a lot, where we will need to a little bit short break before start the third presenter, Professor Nayoung Kim. So we will have just 2 minutes for to go to the toilet or anything. Just 2 minutes. We will start the other section. The third presenter will start 5:14 p.m. in Korea and 3:14 in Vietnam. Okay, thank you. See you soon. Yeah, our final presenter is Professor Nayoung Kim, Director of Research Center for Sex and Gender Specific Medicine at Seoul National University. She will a globally recognized expert in gastroenterology and sex and gender specific medicine. Today, she will present why is sex and gender specific medicine important. I invite Professor Kim to begin her presentation.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Time is limited. I would like to shortly go to the presentation. Why is sex gender specific medicine important? It is well known that it is the key point of precision medicine and is the best way to reach the tailored therapy. So I would like to share our experience of the brief history of sex and gender specific medicine at Seoul National University, Bundang Hospital for 10 years. And then I'd like to provide example of sex and gender differences in gastric cancer. First thing is our experience for 10 years. So my starting point was the 2014, the Stanford University with the COPS at the Stanford University seminar. And then at that time, the topic was, one of the topic was colon cancer. Even I am a gastroenterologist, it was very fresh and a very attractive topic for research. So after then, I applied for national grant in 2016 and 2019 with this topic, and it was very successful. So I found many precious results from this research. So after that, I found the sex and gender difference is very important and very blue ocean for research. So in March 2017, 7 years ago, we made the sex and gender research core group in our hospital because our hospital is established in 2023. So we try to catch up the big hospital in Korea, and some kind of leading hospital should be strong for the research. So they just provide good environment for research group. For instance, some kind of some small money and some kind of anyway support. And Professor Paik Hee-young and participating professors in this core group was started in 2017. And at the time, she gave us some good presentation. And then the seminars between GISTER and sex and gender core group of SNUPH continued. From 2017, the topic was alcohol, and 2019 and 2020, gun microbiota. At that time, Professor Heisook Lee visited our hospital, and we discussed many things. And this is some kind of photo of April 24th, 2019. And also the very precious guest visited our hospital, and she gave good presentation for us to some kind of accelerate our stimuli, our some will for this sex and gender research. And one example is that during graduate course entitled Sex and Gender Specific Medicine from 2017. And at the time, the topic was sex as a biological variable. And I provided this example because it is very some kind of common error or common some kind of thing in our research environment. At the time, the effect of probiotics on irritable bowel syndrome in male and female, some rats. And then I gave him many results regarding these experiments. And he analyzed the data regardless of sex. Even I emphasized that there should be some sex difference because this is IBS. But he brought the data as a whole, and there was no effect at all. So I advised him to perform a reanalysis for male and female respectively. And we found that the young male rats showed good some kind of decrease of the effect of the probiotics on this experiment model. And young female, there was small little difference. So after that, we found some key, some differences between sex, and it was very well reported in some SCI journal. And this publication was introduced in many newspapers in Korea. So right now, the Professor Choi is very, he became the expert of this area. And also because we had some graduate course, and we changed some professors and fellows and residents during this course, we published entitled Experiences with the Graduate Course on Sex and Gender Medicine in Korea. And still, we 2 or 3 years, we opened this graduate course. And this is the photo of recent September 27th. And also we just undergraduate students is medical students very important because they will become some doctors. We opened annual class for second grade medical students of Seoul National University College of Medicine entitled as Sex and Gender Specific Medicine since 2018. And also we published the 4 books in Korean and English, and the third one was supported by the DigitalHealth and the National Academy of Medicine of Korea. And the last one is after launching of a research center for sex and gender specific medicine in our hospital. So we know that the sex and gender is very important, but as we getting old, the gender effect is very important. So I tried to figure out some sex and gender differences in gastrointestinal endoscopy from the perspective of patients and gastroenterologists. I found that there are differences of self-reported endoscopy-related injury between men and women doctors. That is, women doctors received more frequent injuries in the thumb, hand, finger, wrist, and neck and upper back pain. But in case of men, it is very small, that the elbow pain and the low back pain. So it means that women gastroenterologists receive more broad range of endoscopic-related injury than men doctors. thus protection is very necessary. For instance, the equipment of endoscopy is the same. It is more fit or suitable for men. So we need more to emphasize this kind of injury and some kind of, there should be some difference of medical equipment. And then during this 8 years or 9 years, there was some question about research center for sex and gender specific medicine necessary or not. And actually, Professor Paik Hee-young suggested me to make some is the research center for sex and gender specific medicine in our hospital. At the time, I was wondering what's the effect finally, and I just figured out the aim is necessity of a central tower for orchestrating the strategy of sex and gender specific medicine in Korea, and also to communicate with the global society like this today regarding medicine. And maybe we can play a role because we have some long history of this kind of devotion and some kind of education and research. And apply for, we need a national grant because I devoted some kind of my time to colon cancer research because I received national grant, and it stimulated me to have some curiosity about the colon cancer, why there is a sex difference of some kind of location, and why women is protected from the colon cancer due to estrogen. The mechanism is why, and some kind. So apply for national grant together with the scientists of biomedical, basic and clinical areas. Maybe we can play a role for these 3 aims. Finally, on April 5th, 2023, Research Center for Sex and Gender Specific Medicine in Seoul National University Hospital was opened. And there are some kind of, the reporters have some interest. Wow, there is some kind of the research center in Korea, not in USA, some kind of. So from that time, we tried to make, because our hospital did not give us some place, any room or kind of any space. So also we think about how can be effective to some kind of let this center know in the abroad. So we made English homepage to communicate with abroad. And so now the 37 professors in our majority is in our hospital, and the other 10 from outside, even in abroad. And we made a very some clean and very clear homepage in our, actually my hospital made this homepage, not me. So they had some interest that, oh, this is very, it became famous in Korea. So they tried to support to make our hospital more famous. The aim is that, not us. And so from that, we started the seminar, because seminar is relatively, it is difficult for me, relatively, we can make it. So first seminar, the May 23rd, and second, every 2 months. And the last one is the July 23rd, 2024. And it was, we usually focus on some pharmacokinetics or some kind of diet or other some the medical diseases such as GI. The kind of this topic was some kind of the MESRD means some kind of liver disease due to some fat, high fat diet or obesity or something like that. The metabolic associated livers, some kind of fibrosis in liver, and also the colon, some kind of bile duct cancer and pancreatic cancer. It has some kind of difference in the familial risk. Usually, mother has give the siblings more some kind of risk than the father. So the final goal is we need some kind of research. So the for research, we need a grant. So we had a strategy meeting for application to national grant regarding sex and gender specific medicine. It was proposed actually Hyun-young Park, the Director General, National Institute of Health, Korea. She is actually a cardiologist, and she was initially a professor in the Yonsei University. She changed her mind to devote her life to some kind of official, the National Institute of Health, and finally, maybe 30 years later, she became the director of that organization. And she had some curiosity whether there are some professors or researchers in Korea regarding sex and gender specific medicine. And I invited as many as I can. So the offline, 7 professors in our hospital, right side, and the left side, 25 MD and PhD from outside. And she was surprised about this, some kind of interest and some kind of hit or kind of some, anyway, she was very surprised. So next time we made some kind of more specific stretch meeting, the March 29th and July 19th. And she just made it. That is approval of 2,800,000 USD grant for sex and gender specific medicine by government in 2025. So it was very surprising because initially we just made our government can approve some kind of national grant or not, but finally we did. Actually, Hyun-young Park did it, but because we supported many researchers showed we have some research necessity for this topic. So next, just a small, I would like exchange share my experience in the sex and gender specific medicine in gastric cancer. So the incidence rate of gastric cancer is about 2 times higher in males than in females. South Korea is the 3rd rank. Vietnam is maybe very lower, but the 3rd rank in the instance. But mortality is the lowest in the world because of government strategy of biennial endoscopic checkup to detect early gastric cancer. So it is very good, but we need to prevent the development of, so we need to decrease this instance. And the age analysis in our hospital data shows that the prevalence of gastric cancer is male is 2.5 times like the higher in 29 years old, but in the age below 40, it became reverse, 1.4 times higher in female than in male group, like this. So below 40, the women is more dominant in gastric cancer. So usually we divide the gastric cancer into intestinal type and diffuse type by Loren classification. Diffuse type is like this, more some kind of this one, more thick and just no ulcer or no mass, like just flat. But it is common among females and younger individuals. And of course, this diagnosis prognosis is very worse because the detection is difficult and intestinal type, and the diffuse usually can like spread very well. But intestinal type is like some kind of mass, like and they don't go easily. So it frequent in males, and the incidence is 1.6 times higher than that of diffuse type, more frequent in males. And also it is very interesting that the proportion of diffuse type in premenopause, usually in our Korea, menopause is 51 years old, just mean age. And female, 81% is diffuse type. Diffuse type is the prognosis is not good. So the survival is because of some kind of difficult detection than intestinal type. Intestinal type is only 19%. But as the proportion of intestinal type in female rapidly increases from 19% to 60.6% 20 years after menopause, similar to 61% of male gastric cancer patients. It means estrogen prevents the development of intestinal type gastric cancer, but it promotes some kind of diffuse type below menopause. And today I would like to focus on the EB virus associated gastric cancer. Usually the Loren classification is very famous regarding just the gastroscopy and the easy approach to gastric cancer. But the molecular characterizations, usually it is categorized as EB virus associated gastric cancer and the gastric carcinoma with the microsatellite instability and gastric carcinoma with the chromosomal instability and genetically stable gastric carcinoma, 4 categories. And the first one is EB virus associated gastric cancer. EB virus is like this, the double-strand DNA and the kind of herpes virus proliferates in epithelial cells of oropharynx, oral, the pharynx, latent infection of B lymphocyte, and associated many diseases such as the Hodgkin's lymphoma and gastric cancer and nasopharyngeal cancers. The EB virus associated gastric cancer is around occupying 10%. The South Korea, the reports are 5.6 to 13%. And usually the pathology shows lace-like pattern, which is very similar to the undifferentiated carcinoma, poorly differentiated, like this, poorly differentiated. So it is belongs to diffuse type. So we think the prognosis is not good. The EB virus inside hybridization can define it is positive or negative. And we focus on the sex difference of EB virus associated gastric cancer because the EB virus provokes some kind of immune. So immune is more stronger in females. So maybe should be some sex difference. So the one thing is that EB virus associated gastric cancer shows good prognosis. So usually the EB virus negative is red, but the overall survival is blue, is more better than the other gastric cancer. And the gastric cancer specific survival shows more definitely it is very good. So we think that usually the EB virus associated gastric cancer is located proximal stoma and poorly differentiated diffuse type. So unfavorable conditions. Why? There is good prognosis. It is very strange. But explanation for this paradox could be EB virus associated gastric cancer is immunogenic cancer. So it activates host cell immune response around tumor. So inhibit lymphovascular invasion and distant metastasis, despite of undifferentiated tumor. But we think about this is because the percent of EB virus associated gastric cancer frequently occur in male, 10 times more than female. So maybe there should be some difference in the survival. So in male, because male is more dominant, 90% of this EB virus associated gastric cancer, maybe the survival rate regardless of sex represents the male's appearance. And then we found the female, there is no difference. So some immunogenicity does not have any effect on female. So sex-dependent immune shows that the XY chromosome, the sex chromosome, more than 1,000 genes X chromosome, including cytokine, the IL-2, IL-4, something like that. But in Y chromosome, it is only there is 100. So 10 times in female more frequent than males. And also hormones, the testosterone negatively regulate immune response, estrogen reinforce immune response. So we can just explain that EB virus-associated gastric cancer is immunogenic cancer. Male patients show strong immunogenic response to EB virus-associated gastric cancer. Thus, the progress is good. Even they develop, the EB virus-associated cancer is frequent in male, but during that some kind of disease development, immune response became stronger, so it can inhibit the metastasis. In case of females, the immune reaction is already strong. Thus, EB virus-associated gastric cancer does not show any difference from non-EB virus-associated gastric cancer, because the EB virus usually cannot attack the female's immune system, but if can invade the kind of disrupt this immune system, the immune system already disrupted, that they cannot protect their body from some kind of cascade. So from this some kind of result, we can say that usually in case of early gastric cancer invading mucosa is upper part of gastric wall, so we can perform the therapeutic endoscopy instead of operation. But if there is some invasion of some mucosa, then we are afraid of some kind of relapse or kind of lymph node invasion already. So usually we don't touch the submucosal invasion even in males. But in case of this EB virus-associated gastric cancer in males, maybe we can just perform therapy using therapeutic endoscopy, because we know it does not go too far away, just the stomach, like that. So take-home message is that the sex-gender specific medicine in Korea has been started from August 6th, 2014, meeting in Stanford University with Easter. So I think maybe this is some kind of point of Vietnam. Even they have some institute. I don't know. After that, we made 4 meetings in SNUPH and performed education programs for graduate students and medical students. And we published books regarding sex and gender specific medicine. And during this activity, many scholars gathered to propose the national grant. So I think the book, some preparation of some kind of book, it is very important, because I invited many professors. Why don't you more deeply make some review article for the sex difference? And they, that is very important, but I don't know the mechanism. But you can just choose some kind of knowledge through the PubMed or other literature. And they just accepted my invitation. Finally, we opened the Research Center for Sex and Gender Specific Medicine at SNUPH, which played, I think, actually, a key role in communication with the National Institute of Health in Korea. Now we are doing research in each area of medicine of basic and clinics, which will contribute to health of human beings, including Koreans. Actually, one maybe just the director of GIST, Heisook Lee, had better do this, but anyway, I have some picture. So 2024, there is an international symposium for sex and gender specific medicine in our hospital. And we 3 of us made this some kind of right now make the progress of this meeting, prepare the meeting. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Professor Kim, for sharing your expertise with us. We truly appreciate your contribution today. Thank you to all of our speakers for your thought-provoking presentation. We truly appreciate the time, knowledge, and experience we've shared with us today. But before we move on, I have to say first, my apology for the slight delay. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chatting room of the Zoom, and we will gather them for that discussion session. So now we will begin the panel discussion by hearing from our three distinguished panelists. And then each panelist will have 10 minutes for their presentation. And after all the presentation are completed, we will proceed with a 10 to 15-minute discussion. So this is also a good time to ask any question we didn't get to the earlier. So we'll start 5:45 to 6:15 in Korean time and 3:45 to 4:15 for Vietnam time. Okay. Okay. First, would you like to introduce Dr. Hyunsoon Cho, professor at the Department of Cancer AI and Digital Health at the National Cancer Center Graduate School of Cancer Science Policy in Korea. She will be discussing the topic of incorporating gender and sex-specific data in cancer research.
Yeah. So thank you for inviting me to speak at this important seminar workshop between Korea and Vietnam. So I work in the cancer research and mainly quantifying the prognosis and cancer burden. So today I want to discuss and bring a call about integrating sex and gender specific data in cancer research. So my background is biostatistics and epidemiology, so I'm very interested in the data. So if we look briefly in the gender difference in cancer incidence and mortality, there are definite differences in which cancer arise more in male and females. So in female, there are more gender-specific cancers than the males. Male lung and also male and gender-specific cancers like prostate, there's a lot of proportion. And also the mortality differs. And in fact, if we see the risk in men versus female, both incidence and mortality is higher in men. So men is associated in a higher risk of cancer and poorer survival. So definitely these are first call for study about the gender or sex differences, even to reduce global cancer burden. Professor Nayoung already talked about we need more study about the gender-specific medicine. So those are more individualized perspective. If we look like more like global perspective, there are gender and sex differences that we never studied about. So these gender and sex differences may arise from multiple domains, from molecular to behavior, psychological and sociological things. So many factors affect sex and gender differences, even in cancer and also in the ambient temperature related disease and health outcomes as well, as speaked in the previous speakers. And if we think about how we incorporated gender and sex-specific analysis in the previous literature, we didn't do much things about in this aspect. We just stratified the analysis as a subgroup. Even some literature did not even present this stratified analysis result. And also, we just treat the gender or sex variable, sex effect as a covariate and treat it as a confounder and adjust it. We never focused enough about this gender and sex effect and discuss about the disparity arise from gender and sex. I did a quick research about how much the cancer and gender or sex researchers stated. If you just Google cancer, there are tons of literature studied. And if you also search gender or sex, there are some literature. But if you combine cancer and gender or sex, there are really little literature. So it's not studied well enough, as you can see even in the published papers. So I want to also talk about the clinical trials aspect as well. Even in global burden and epidemiological study, we did not focus enough to study about the gender disparity. And also in the clinical studies like clinical trials, we did not pay much attention about the gender effect. Usually we do randomize the clinical trial and think that there are not much difference between the genders because we randomized it. But however, there might be unknown and unspecified gender effect, and we may have to look into more about the gender-specific result, even from the clinical trials. So we may need to have a design the clinical trial differently to fit for this purpose. If we look even in the incidence rate, there are more incidences in male than female. Even if we consider those incidence rate, we still see little female involved in the clinical trial. So maybe a lot of clinical trial results are representative about the male than the female. And in the previous talk, the drug doses might even different for female and males. And we do need a gender-specific clinical trial result if we consider those things as well. So I would like to say something about how the lack of these research and data lead to the biases in the future society. So we definitely see there are differences in if we say cancer, the risk and survivor, but there are limited research and limited data. So which will induce the biases in the data to feed in the AI. And then in the future society, we do a lot of AI-driven healthcares and AI-driven healthcare tools, learning from this limited data, learning from the biased result toward one gender and one sex-specific result, so which may lead to incorrect healthcare decision-making or biased precision medicine in some sense. So I would like to wrap up my presentation here, and I'd like to discuss about from the previous presenters in relation to the previous presenters presentations. Then in the previous presenter also talk about there are gender differences, but in some sense despite the importance of the research and differences, we really have a lack of research and limited data. So I would like to highlight those aspects and wrap up the talk with a call for more research and more data for the future society. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Professor Cho, for your valuable insight, especially you focus on gender characteristic and data bias regarding AI. So your perspective has greatly enriched our understanding today, and we truly appreciate your contribution to the discussion. All right, next, we have Dr. Thuong Hong, who is a founding member and director of the Center for Creative Initiative in Health and Population. Dr. Huang has extensive experience working with marginalized and vulnerable communities through research, intervention program, and policy advocacy. Today, she will be speaking on the topic of promoting gender equality, sexual and reproductive rights, and health equity in Vietnam.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to discuss in this very interesting panel. I hope that my presentation will give like also another perspective in what important about the sex and gender difference that the other speaker already talked. So, of course, I will cover the health equity, but from the not only the gender equity, but also from the intersectionality lens, and also put more in the context of climate change and health emergency situations in Vietnam. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Yes. So you know that Vietnam, you already make a lot of good progress in term of health insurance coverage. So at the end of by now, I think we can get to more than 90% of the populations that covered by health insurance, and also especially the most vulnerable and marginalized group, like people with disability, ethnic minority people, poor people, also got like a special scheme to get health insurance cover for free. Nevertheless, the health expenditure is a burden for the family. Vietnam is among the countries up to it. Spend for health is high in the region. And as a minority, especially also suffer from getting poor because of the health expense. So they may have to sell, their assets and property to cover for health expense. And also in many times the treatment also not really reflect or respect the cultural aspect of the traditional norms, traditional custom of the ethnic minority people, and also the percentage accessible health service low because it's a bit echo, right? And other like the minority, like a transgender people also face unfriendly attitude at health facility. And looking at sexual reproductive health service especially, to see that even I think Vietnam also have a very good coverage in terms of like antenatal care. But like there are some specific group still have a difficulty in access to the service. For example, like if you look at the ethnic minority women, so only 11% of ethnic minority women can have a full time of antenatal care compared to the average national rate is about 74%. So very big gap. And also around like 30% of them have a delivery at the clinic, health clinic, or assisted by a trained birth attendant. And women with disability also face a lot of issue in terms of like ensuring their sexual reproductive rights. For example, many of them still face like a forced abortion or forced sterilization, or even like a young young women, young girl with disability as a forced for uterus removal. And the striking issue is that when I just conduct a training for health provider, many of them that not, I think they quite, they feel very difficulty when facing this request from the family. They don't know what to do, and it's really important for the ministries of health to put like a good guidance for health provider to respond in terms of this, and only like a low percentage of the health facility, I think under 20% of health facility, especially at the grassroots level, like a community health station, is accessible for women with disability, and also health provider also don't have a good knowledge and skill to work with this group. And also, I forgot here one thing. Also, the maternal mortality rate among some of the ethnic minority people is very high. Often, like a double, or in some ethnic, even like a triple or more than triple time compared to the maternal mortality rate of the King people. So this is I think in the previous presentation that mentioned the big typhoon that we just suffer. And here's a story. You see a woman in her labor day that she have to walk for 14 hours. It's like a 40 kilometers through the forest and mountain to get to the nearest district hospital to get a C-section. Yeah, so you see that it's a very difficult for women to ethnic minority women is an ethnic minority in the mountainous area to get to service. And here the also another ethnic minority women who gave birth on the boat during the typhoon. So it's so important that women was taken into account in the response to disaster in like this. And also we just also went through the epidemic like COVID, and then the lockdown really also influenced the women access to service. So many, like in Vietnam, many of the health service they close the service, like antenatal care or delivery for women. So it's not easy for women to get this service. So for example, like in the province, there's only one hospital, and there's a private hospital that open for this service in that area. And so the women have no other choice than go to that service, and they have to pay much more expensive than they go to the public service. And also the other service, for example, like HIV preventions and harm reduction also are disrupted, so that people also have an increased risk of getting HIV. And look at the domestic violence, and you see that Vietnam also conduct like a 2 national study on domestic violence, and you see that women, ethnic minority women, or women with disability, all get like a higher risk of being violent by their partner, like their husband. And also, we don't have a national study of trans women, but like in some small online study, it really shows that trans women suffer much higher risk of being violent by their family member, or violent at school or at workplace. And one striking thing is that we found that trans women also suffer from much higher rate of higher risk of suicide compared to the married women. Yeah, so and I also this is about Vietnam, and also so you can see that it's not only like a gender, it's really playing important issue in terms of health equity, but that also you have to consider other issues like ethnic minority, poverty, gender identity is also or disability, aging is also another issue. And take into account of the context that now we are suffering, like climate change or health crisis is very important. And I also take this opportunity to introduce you the data that you may, I don't know if you all know about this, because the previous presenter also discussed about data. I think it's important to have good data. And so in 2023, WHO just launched a very good health equity assessment tool where they call the HEAT. Then it have global data on health equity, so it can really work that's an interactive tool that you can work with. Yeah, so you may want to try this. So I just put a recommendation is that so I think it's important that the health equity should be integrated in laws and policy cross sector, because not only in health, but we can see that in other sector like health financing and other thing, and also in the response to climate change is also important. And we need other mechanisms than health insurance to mitigate the impact of gender inequity and other intersectional factors to increase access of people, of the women, especially women from the more marginalized and vulnerable group, to access to health service, and to build a good literature on health equity that take into account gender and other intersectional factor is so important. Like other presenter already mentioned that if we, without good data, we just cannot identify the issue, and so we cannot track if the disparity gap, it's fixed. And I also urge to use more mixed method and participatory action research on data. We have I think quantitative data is important, but to have a qualitative data to really show the voice of the group that suffer from all this inequity, I think is important. And it's also important to build capacity for manager, researcher, health provider on health security using rights-based approach, and intersectionality is crucial. Thank you very much for listening.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tuan Hong, for your insightful contribution, especially your focus on access to health service for ethnic minority women, the gender-based violence, and the health equity, especially during the emergency. Your perspective have been valuable, and we truly appreciate your participation in today's discussion. All right, last we have Dr. Vu Phuong Ly, Gender Training Specialist at the UN Women's Center of Excellence for Gender Equality in Seoul. Dr. Ly previously served as a program specialist in Vietnam, where she focused on gender and climate change, financing for gender equality, and empowering ethnic minority women. So please.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to join very important webinar on health equity from gender innovation in science and technology. So allow me to introduce myself, and I'm Vietnamese, and I have worked in Vietnam before I came here. So today I have been invited to share some reflection on gender equality policy and the global trend. In the context of today's discussion, I would like to share some data that highlight gender issue on a global level. As the global advocate for women and girls, UN Women has worked closely with other UN agencies and other stakeholders to produce relevant, high quality, and gender responsive indicators to monitor progress on sustainable development goals. I hope many of you already heard about sustainable development goals. So the gender statistic that I'm sharing with you today from the most recent 2024 global report on the SDG, and this focus on the gender snapshot, which designed to help us understand where we are on the sustainable development goal for women and girls. So now let's look at some of the SDG that can focus on health equity, gender equality, and innovation in science and technology. So we all know that from the discussion today that we have with all the speakers, we know that gender norms, role and relation, gender inequality and equity affect people's health around the world. So gender norms, socialization, in power relation, and in access to and control over the resource contribute to difference in vulnerability and how illness is experienced, health behavior, access to and uptake the health service, treatment response, and health outcome. For example, gender can determine how the health risk faced and taken. So now let's look at the first, the SDG 3, which focus on good health and on well-being. So this is the data from the global report telling us that women and girls in conflict setting are faced heightened physical and mental health risks. So for example, harmful gender norm, the underfunding on safe, quality, and affordable sexual and reproductive health service, and a poor healthcare system in low and middle-income countries continue to constrain progress. So the slide that show you is also highlight the severe impact of the war conflict and displacement on women's physical and mental health in various regions. For example, in Gaza, in Haiti, in Sudan, and in Ukraine. So in Ukraine, for example, we found that 8% of women reporting designing medicine for ancestry And this number for men is 4%, so there is a difference. So now let's quickly turn to the SDG 5 on gender equality. So the data reveal that the world is on track to achieve the SDG 5 on gender equality by 2030. So unless progress accelerates rapidly, the global community will not be able to achieve gender equality by 2030. So we see that with all the data present you on the screen, you can see that the overall progress has been insufficient, especially on structural issues such as gender responsive law and policy. Social norms continue to perpetuate discrimination, preventing women from achieving equal with men. So for example, the data present you can see that in many parts of the world, we still have discriminatory legal framework that hinder gender equality. Countries with domestic violence legislation report lower rate of intimate partner violence compared to those countries that don't have the legal framework on ending violence against women. On the unpaid care work that you can see from your left side, globally, women spend 2.5 times as many hours per day on unpaid care work compared to men. And sexual and physical violence, 1 in every 8 women and girls aged from 50 to 49 was subject to sexual and physical violence by intimate partner in the previous year. So this is the global data. So this is, really show a profound impact on health of both women and men, influencing gender pattern in health outcome. So for example, unpaid care work in particular affect women's physical and mental well-being, limiting their access to healthcare and opportunity while reinforce inequality that persists across society. So as we are discussing on health equity and gender equality, it's also very important to recognize that the role of technology in empowering women. If you see the number in yellow in your left side, you can see that only 65% of women use internet in 2023 compared to 70% of men. So this statistic highlights the existing gender digital divide, underscoring the need for initiative aimed at improving women's access to technology and internet. The digital divide can hinder women's access to vital information and health service, including the health resources. Now, this is my final slide. So let's turn our attention to several SDGs, the 12, the 13, the 14, and the 15. So this goal focus on responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, and life on land. So from the discussion today, it's very important for us to understand the interconnection between environmental sustainability and health outcome. So that interconnection cannot be overlooked. The degradation of our natural environment significantly impacts the public health, disproportionately affecting vulnerable people, including women and girls. So for example, if you can see some of the data I present, it have increased the prevalence of disease and limit the access to clean water and nutrition food. So addressing this goal, not only fostering a sustainable future, but also ensure the health and well-being for all community. So for example, if we look at the Tonga, the data on your right side, which belong to the Asia Pacific, where many rely on the environment for their livelihood, the evidence showing that women and men experience the effect of climate change differently. Women and girls suffer more physically and mentally due to their limited ability to cope with hazards or disaster. So this is some of the quick data present in different areas of the SDG, which provide you a quick understanding on some global gender issue that can significantly impact health and equity with the main topic of what we are discussing today. So as we are approaching 2030 deadline for the achievement of the SDG, progress for gender equality is too low. So achieving then on the discussion today is really highlight that achieving gender equality will require a lot of the implementing evidence-based, well-resourced, high impact and timely bound action in every country. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you to all of our panelists for their insightful and engaging presentation today. Your expertise and perspective have greatly enriched our discussion today. Due to the time constraint, we will gather all questions, whether they are for the presenter and panelists or from the audience, and address them during the panel discussion. So this way, we can ensure all important points are covered efficiently. Also, thank you so much for the active engagement happening in our chatting room already, where we really appreciate your thoughtful question through the chatting room and the responses. I think we will have one or two questions for our discussion time briefly, but there are, yeah, I believe everyone can find the many questions through our chatting room of the Zoom. So first question is from the President, Heisook Lee. But Professor Tu, you mentioned the gender differences in AMI related to heat or temperature, which he found particularly interesting. So would you like to ask She if you have similar data or information from other countries from the presenter Heisook Lee? So Dr. Tu, can you answer this question first?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. So thank you for the question, and I'm very happy that you are so concerned about the meteorological factor that impact on the health condition. And in that specific field, I found recently from China, Europe, and also other countries from East Asia, people still concerned to investigate the impact relating to this one. And the result is quite varied, and it's kind of had the same conclusion. Even in Vietnam, it showed that extreme heat can be more impact in males, while the cold effect are more stronger and significant in the female group. And the difference between region countries relating to this impact, especially by the sex differences, people more conclude it due to the variation of course, the sex-specific biological factors, but also the climate change, where the adaptation of the population is very important, including the lifestyle and behavior of the people. So even we have kind of general idea like that, but this kind of study should be investigated in very specific location to get the answer for that specific region. So that is my answer. Hope it's addressed with the concern from Professor Lee.
Thank you. I think it's a very good direction for us to study further the climate change and health equity together with gender integrating sex and gender research, which seems to be very limited research so far. Thank you.
Okay, the following Dr. Tu's response, does anyone have any additional thought or comments they'd like to share? No, I believe no more question, but because there are many valuable questions, our chatting room. The second question, I'd like to move on to that. The second question, talking about the references, a study on heat exposure and cardiovascular health outcome. So the study found that heat exposure increased the risk of morbidity and mortality for women, the elderly, those in tropical climate. and individuals in lower middle income country. So the question is, what are your thoughts on studying gender differences in this context in the future? I guess this question to Professor Nayoung Kim is right.
Yeah, I am. So I originally thought that the female has more fat, and so we females are resistant to some kind of cold, but it is different. So, and another point is that actually a male has more vulnerability, easy to some occur the AMI than female. Some kind of weather. So I think maybe the more, if we need more accurate some kind of information from this study, we had better some multivariate analysis for all of those things. So anyway, the study is very important, some kind of message for us, some gender difference of to the way, some kind of health impact of ambient temperature on hospital administration for acute MI in central coast of Vietnam. But some kind of just my some knowledge, the female is more resistant to some kind of cold. Maybe heat is different, but this message is not to my expectation.
All right, thank you, Professor Nayoung Kim. So any other thought or comments for her responses? Okay, but during our short discussion, there are so many valuable questions in the chatting room. And if you are unable to discuss all of them during this discussion session, we will follow up through a further meeting or by email. Okay. I guess it's really okay.
I just try to answer the
Yeah, right.
this question, but I asked ChatGPT how ChatGPT think. But I tried to copy ChatGPT's answer, but it has some limit to paste in the message board. But I can share the ChatGPT's answer through the email or through the Gster. It's interesting. ChatGPT obviously think we need to collect more data, more collaboration, and gender specific AI models. And interestingly, it talk about some regulation compliances, open access data, and many more things. So I think it's interesting. So definitely I will share the ChatGPT's answer to everybody. I think now ChatGPT say better than I thought, but obviously for the tools question, I think we need to have some better model, better data, and better regulations, so that AI can learn unbiased data. Okay, so sorry about that. It seems like I cannot copy paste right now.
No, really interesting. Right? Actually, I found the question to the Professor Cho talking about the AI system in cancer research with you using diverse representative. Right? This the answer from the ChatGPT is really interesting for everyone, I believe. But okay, well, I think we can gather all the question for all of you. All of you who is participating in our seminar, so we can send the email to our to gather the question to do more further discussion today. So I guess time's really running out of time. So to close today's event, we will first hear from Professor Nayoung, followed by Professor Hee-young Paik. So I'd like to invite Professor Kim to deliver her closing remark. So
Yes.
please.
Yes, thank you. I think today's Korea-Vietnam seminar regarding health equity through gender innovations in science and technology was very meaningful and useful. Especially Professor Tang Chi An's presentation regarding health impact of ambient temperature on hospital admissions for AMI in central coast of Vietnam was very impressive because it was very long. It took long time and covered a broad area of Vietnam. As Korea and Vietnam are close Asian countries and the social cultural background as well as gender issue is similar, that there should be, I guess there are many things to share for the solid establishment and development of sex and gender specific medicine. Thus, we need to open this seminar regularly for both of Vietnam and Korea. Personally, I received much help from Professor Paik Hee-young and Heisook, the directors of GISTER. I really appreciate it because they made some moment for me and I brought my research area to sex and gender specific medicine. So I think similar organization should exist in Vietnam if it does not exist so far, my suggestion. And I hope this seminar is the beginning point of cooperation between Korea and Vietnam. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Professor Kim, for your thoughtful remark again. Now I would like to invite Professor Hee-young Paik to deliver the key takeaway message.
Yes, I also would like to thank all the speakers as well as the organizers for this wonderful opportunity that we each other exchange our status and also our experiences and some problems that we are facing in terms of sex and gender in research as well as health and population problem. Also, it was very good that we also discussed about global trends because gender problem is worldwide and much of the things are common and we can overcome all the hardships together if we can share our knowledge and experiences. I think it's great opportunity, especially that the sex and gender specific medicine experience of Seoul National University Hospital. And then we also had faculty members from Hugh University of Medicine and Pharmacy and Public Health. So we can see some grounding grounding liaison together to develop this opportunity. I also would like to say that in our research of the gender variables between US and Korea, we see common problems, also different aspects of how the status of men and women in terms of gender variables and their effect on health. And it shows that the gender method and then case studies, they are mainly developed in the Europe and North America, may not be the same in Korea and Vietnam. So turning to our own society's characteristics and problems will develop, of course, new perspectives in gendered innovations and will be applicable to many Asian countries. Asia has the most populous countries in the world, so a lot of population can benefit from our efforts. So I hope you continue this cooperation so that we can build up more health equity and good climate health and population health. Thank you very much for all your efforts.
Right. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all of our presenters and panelists for their valuable contribution today. Where especially thank you, the Professor Paik, for the taking away message. But I would like to express my appreciation to Seoul University in Vietnam for their support and participation. So thank you again for your time and dedication today. We look forward to seeing you at future events. So before we conclude, we will share a Google Form link in the chatting room of the Zoom where you can complete the survey in either English or Korean. We kindly ask everyone to participate in this survey. All right, thank you.